So I wanted to talk this morning a bit about something I often mention at the end of retreats in terms of working with home practice. And that's that's a sense of resting back from the conceptualizing mind, how we might do that, why we might do that. But first of all, I found in meditation yesterday. I hadn't meditated for a few days with the COVID, and then yesterday I did, and brought back this memory in meditation from about 25 years ago, which I want to tell you about. It was on a convention and a women's convention, and Viveka, who some of you will have heard of, some of you will know, and many of you perhaps won't now. She's based in San Francisco. And she led a meditation workshop on the convention, a series of workshops. And at some point, partway through this workshop, she'd led us into a meditation, and she said, "Where do thoughts come from? Where do thoughts come from?" And she said, "I'm not expecting an answer. You don't need to answer this question." But it was one of those times where I did have an answer. I didn't say it. There were quite a few other people who had things to say. I didn't say it, but it was like, but I do have an answer. What do I do with this? And my answer, and again, this will make sense to some of you and maybe not to others. My answer was that thoughts came from the Alaya. The Alaya store consciousness. So it's a model, but it's a model where yeah, lots of where everything experienced has a sort of, it comes from somewhere. This is the name of it's not exactly a place. And this was obviously a conceptualization of something, but the experience has really stayed with me. It was describing an experience that had quite a dreamy quality, but was also clear. This mass of fragments of thoughts and impulses and movements of mind. And it was like a cosmic mental soup. That was a sort of feel of it. And the image of all these fragments sort of rising, some of them rising to the surface of this mental soup, and others just not quite having the energy. I guess it was habitual energy to get there. But the ones that rose to the surface were more easily sort of identifiable or distinguishable. So there was some sort of recognition of a bit of content, but mostly it was just this mass that sort of some rose and some disappeared, didn't make it to full consciousness. And I knew that those that did had more energy and more sort of habit energy, if you like, behind them, the drives, and some of those eventually got expressed. So all this sort of was there within a few moments of Viveka asking this question. And what's really stayed with me is some understanding of how the mind, how mental objects, how it works, how it functions. I felt there was some degree of understanding there. So yesterday meditation, COVID brain, what to do in meditation, and this thought, bring rest back from the conceptualizing mind, rest back, relax back from the conceptualizing mind, because I could feel it was around thoughts weren't very clear, and the mind wasn't really clearly able to know individual happenings, but there was a definite sense of this conceptualizing mind as a whole, and resting back out of it, relaxing back out of it, brought a spaciousness, an awareness of this mass, but from a different perspective, spaciousness and ease. There were there was a sort of relaxing and releasing a grip. And my sense was it was the release from grasping onto detail, grasping onto meaning, and content. So all those things that are the purview of the conceptualizing mind. So just letting those things be, if you like, not trying to make more of what was being noticed. And the thing that I often say at the end of retreats, and I was saying it at the end of Vajraloka last week, was I suggest that coming off retreat to help the practice keep going, to find times and activities where you can relax out of that conceptualizing mind, planning, thinking mind. And it's usually by finding times to do nothing, to sit outside, not doing useful things, not being motivated by an idea of either getting things done or filling up time. I think with our phones, we're not really, or tech, we're not really getting things done. We're more filling up time. So just keeping away from those two ideas, and instead perhaps a cup of tea mind, where there's a contentment just to sit with, or willingness to sit with a cup of tea, not doing anything in particular. And doing this as a way of accessing the awareness mode, if you like, rather than the doing mode in the mind, accessing awareness. And because on retreat, there's a lot of non-doing. There's a lot of accessing and prioritizing that awareness mind. But when we come back off retreat, then the balance is tipped the other way. So we're much, much more involved in the more utilitarian need to do mode. So it helps rebalance the mind and helps the mind have more energy. Because it's actually quite exhausting for the mind to be thinking about things constantly. And not only thinking about them, but following. That's even more exhausting, is to be following the thoughts, to not have that spaciousness around them, to simply know what's happening. Yeah, and it's something of a, maybe it's not quite a paradox, but getting there. So that there are always these subtle thoughts, always subtle movements of mind, mental fragments of experience, mind and body interrelating, mind, heart, body interrelating. So that's always going on to some extent, and there can be this sort of stepping out of it, or stepping back, relaxing back, dropping back. I think that can be a helpful expression, like a dropping back, a dropping out of that mode. So that's what I'll lead the meditation into that way, and then I'll just, as I said, won't say very much.